एक्चुअली हुआ क्या यार, कल पंगा क्या हो गया
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the official YouTube channel of Officers Adda 24/7. My name is Amanjyot, and today we are going to discuss about FATF. So, what does FATF stands for? It is Financial Action and Task Force. So, Financial Action and Task Force is working for controlling the money laundering and combating the terrorism financing at international level. So, we are going to discuss that what is FATF, what is the function of FATF, what are the activities, what are the significance of FATF. And after that we are going to discuss what are the different list of FATF which helps us to understand that which are the countries. There are which countries who are working or who are performing the money laundering or terrorism funding, who are supporting the terrorism funding. So there are two types of list which is introduced by the FATF or which is launched by the FATF. So we are going to discuss the overall analysis of FATF, that how FATF is controlling money laundering and also controlling the terrorism funding. And after that we are going to practice certain questions related to FATF. So before starting the session, let me know, am I audible to all of you? And the PPT is also visible. Are we good to go? Is everything okay? Are we good to go? So first of all, those candidates who are new to the channel, who are new to the Officer Adda 24/7, do subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you will be notified about all the upcoming sessions on Officer Adda 24/7. And also, if you have not downloaded the Adda 24/7 application yet, then do download the application. This will help you to practice more questions. Now let's move forward and discuss what is FATF. FATF stands for, first of all, Financial Action Task Force. As we know, this Financial Action Task Force is introduced or it is established in the year 1989. So first of all, it was established in the year 1989 by the G7 summit, or we can say the group of 7 countries in the Paris. Okay, so first of all, there was a meeting held in Paris in 1989 where the 7 countries had participated in this particular summit in Paris, and in this particular summit we have came up with a certain organization, with a certain intergovernmental organization which is going to help us to control the money laundering at international level and to control the terrorism funding. So as we know, terrorism funding is a major issue at the international level, also in our country. So every country is facing certain issues related to the terrorism funding. So we want to stop that for terrorism funding at the international level and also the money laundering from the international financial system. So after this summit, after this meeting in Paris in 1989, these countries has decided to introduce a certain organization which is going to control the money laundering and which is going to control the terrorism funding. So what is FATF? First of all, it stands for Financial Action Task Force. It is an intergovernmental organization which is established to set standards and provide effective implementation of legal, regulatory and operational measures for combating the money laundering, terrorist financing and other related threats to the integrity of the international financial system. So those countries who are performing such activities, those countries who are performing money laundering or terrorism financing, who are supporting terrorism financing, they are what we can say, they are the threats to the integrity of the international financial system. It means they are not working properly as per the regulations of international financial system. To combat this services or to combat this activities, FATF works. Okay, now we have to give a certain legal, regulatory, operational measures. We have to give a certain norms that you can't do this activities to control the money laundering and the terrorism financing from the international financial system. And those countries who do not follow the norms of the FATF list those countries in its gray or blacklist, and after listing, after the name of the country comes under the gray list or blacklist, they are certain warned by the FATF, and it may be possible if the country has not stopped these activities, FATF can ban those countries from the international financial system. So simply we are saying that FATF is an intergovernmental organization which is helping overall in the world to control the integrity or to maintain the integrity of the international financial system, okay, by giving a certain legal, regulatory and operational measures to the countries to combat the money laundering and to control the terrorist financing, okay. Now the FATF is really a policy making body that works with the governments to bring about national legislation and regulatory reforms in these areas. So what FATF is doing, as we know, BIS, if we are talking about FATF, let's understand what FATF is working for us. First of all, there is a BIS, Bank for International Settlement. Now, Bank for International Settlements helps the international banking regulations to maintain a similar regulations in the international banking. And what BIS is doing, BIS works or BIS act as a bank for the central bank of different nations. Or we can say BIS act as a bank for Reserve Bank of India also, because RBI is also a member of BIS. So similarly, FATF is doing the same thing. FATF is a policy making bodies which help the policy makers of different countries to bring a certain national legislation, to bring a certain national laws or regulatory reforms by which in the country the government or the policy maker can control the money laundering and terrorism financing, okay. So this is the policy making work of the FATF. Now next is FATF's recommendation. What recommendation has FATF given to us? So FATF has developed a series of recommendations that become global standards for fighting money laundering and terror financing, as well as proliferation of weapons and mass destruction. So these are the topics about which recommendations will be given by the FATF. After that, the first set of recommendation was issued in the year 1990. It was developed in the 1989, and the first recommendation was given in the year 1990. And followed by the revision in 1996, 2001, 2003 and lastly in 2019. So these are the year in which the FATF has given us a certain recommendations. Now that 2001 recommendation is very important because this is the year in which, in addition to money laundering, we added to stop or to control or to combat the terrorist financing, okay. So 2001 is the year from where we added combating terrorism financing under the FATF. So do remember this year or recommendation of this year because it is important. Now, what are the significances of FATF? So FATF plays a central role in global efforts to combat the terrorism financing through its role setting global standard to combat terrorist financing, assisting jurisdiction in the implementing financial provisions of United Nations Security Council resolution on terrorism, and evaluating countries' ability to prevent, detect, investigate, prosecute the financing of the terrorism. So this is the main significance of FATF, in which FATF plays a central role and puts a certain global efforts to investigate, to analyze or to evaluate that which of the following countries or how many countries are there who are trying to combat the norms or trying to combat the terrorism financing and money laundering by using or by following the norms of the FATF. So the FATF also trying to give a global standard to all the countries to control these two issues at the global level, and also it provides the financial provisions of the United Nations Security Council resolution on terrorism. It also gives us a certain provisions which is given by the United Nations Security Council resolution on terrorism, and it also evaluates, it also investigate, it also try to detect that which countries are there who are performing these activities. After that, yet many countries have not yet implemented the FATF's global standards effectively. They do not understand the nature of terrorism financing risk they face or nor have effective means to combat them. So after giving a certain global standards, after giving a certain financial provisions which were given by the United Nations Security Council resolution on terrorism, still there are certain countries in the world who have not implemented the global standards of the FATF. Now what FATF can do after that? After that, FATF will include those countries who are not following the norms or who are performing the terrorism financing or we can say money laundering in the international financial system. So FATF will list those countries in the black or grey list of itself. Okay. Now the FATF strategy on combating terrorism financing sets out the broad objective for FATF work in this area. Under this strategy, FATF is in close collaboration with the regional FATF style regional bodies, other partners such as UN, the FATF has completed work to support the countries around the world in combating the terrorist financing. So simply we are saying that FATF strategy to combat the terrorism financing sets out a broader objective for the FATF work in this area to control the terrorism financing. Okay, and FATF also do a collaboration with the FATF style regional bodies or other partners of UN, United Nations. So it by doing the collaboration with these parties or with these bodies or international organization, FATF try to support the countries in the world who are facing the terrorism financing issues or the money laundering issues. Okay, so these are the significances of FATFs. Now, what are the activities of FATF? The organization monitors its member countries on the progress they have made in implementing reform, reviews their countermeasures to money laundering and terrorism funding. The first activity which is performed by the FATF is that it monitors the member countries that they are following the norms or not, and what progress they have achieved after following the norms of the FATF. So, and also how many norms are implemented by these countries, after how many times they are introducing the reforms in the norms. All these will be monitored by, investigated by the FATF. After that, the decision making body of FATF is called FATF plenary. Okay, this is the decision making body of FATF. Now do remember the name of the FATF decision making body, that is FATF plenary. Now it meets 3 times annually in the financial year. It meets 3 times to decide the reforms in the money laundering and terrorist financing issues and other regulations and norms. Now the organization has included even combating terrorism financing among its objective after 11 September terror attack on the USA in 2001. So this is the very important recommendation of FATF, that it added the terrorism financing also in 2000 year after the terror attack on USA in 2001. Okay, so this year is very important. Now if we are talking about the various lists of FATF, FATF has 2 main lists, that is blacklist and your grey list. If we are talking about first of all blacklist, what is blacklist? It is officially known as the high risk jurisdiction subject to a call for action. Okay, when we are talking about the blacklist countries are officially known as the high risk jurisdiction subject to call for an action. It means these countries are at the high risk jurisdiction, and that's why we have to take a certain immediate action. That is the blacklist countries. Okay, so FATF blacklist sets out the countries that are considered deficient in their anti-money laundering and counter financing of terrorism regulatory regimes. So those countries who are not following the rules, who are not following the norms and at the high risk jurisdiction, and we have to take the immediate action about them, then these countries will be added to the blacklist of the FATF. Now if we are talking about the grey list of FATF, the grey list is officially known as jurisdiction under increased monitoring. Those countries in which we have increased the monitoring, or those countries on which or those countries who are at the stage of the warning which was given by the FATF. So jurisdiction under the increased monitoring are the grey list countries. So countries on the FATF grey list represent a much higher risk of money laundering and terrorism financing, but have formally committed to working with the FATF. So those countries who are facing that there is a chances in the country that money laundering is happening, FATF is happening, etc. In that situation, what we are saying that formally committed to working with FATF, these are the countries who are agreed that we are agreed to inform you or we are agreed to work with you to control this money laundering and to control this terrorism financing, and those countries comes under the grey list. So when we are talking about the blacklist countries are the high risk jurisdictions which are subject to a call for an action or an immediate action. So those countries who are not following the norms, those countries who are performing the terrorism financing and also money laundering, those countries are come under the blacklist, who are not following the norms of the FATF and who are at the high risk of jurisdiction, and that's why we take immediate action to implement the blacklist norms on the country. Now grey list countries are also the countries who have higher risk of money laundering and terrorism financing. But why we are not banning these countries from the international financial system? Because these countries are the countries who agreed that we are agreed to work with FATF and we want to reduce the money laundering and terrorism funding with the help of FATF. So those countries will be coming under the grey list of the FATF. Okay. Now, how many countries are there who are following the FATF norms, and what is FATF and India's relation? So first of all, India is a member of FATF, that is true. Next, as of January 21, there are 39 member countries in FATF. India is a member of organization since the June 2010. So India became the member of the FATF organization in the year 2010. It had earlier acquired observer status at FATF in 2006. Now, what does this observer status means? When we are talking about the observer status, it simply means that this is a country who is participating in the summits or the conference of FATF, but will not give the suggestions in the summits. Okay, the country who is coming as an observer, they are going to observe that what other countries are deciding, what norms they are using, what methods they are using to control the money laundering or financial terrorism financing. But they can't give the suggestions, but they can't give their feedbacks also. They are just the countries who are observing the working of the FATF. Okay, but when you become a member, you can give the suggestions, you can give the feedback also. So India become the observer status. India get the observer status in the year 2006 and become the member in the year 2010. Okay, so FATF observer Indonesia. There are many other observer organization and associate members. First of all, headquarters is in Paris. It established in the year 1989 from the Paris summit also. Now training institute is in Busan, Korea, and no other regional offices of FATF is there. Now, when we are talking about FATF in India, India plans to share more evidence with the key FATF members on the narco terror cases like the Pakistan-based syndicates through which funds are allegedly being supplied to terrorists operating in Jammu and Kashmir. So, India is sharing each and every evidence with the FATF members, FATF member countries, who are 39 member countries, about the narco terror cases linked to the Pakistan terror-based syndicates, and also the ED and the National Investigation Agency have been probing such several cases with the FATF. So simply India is supporting FATF to combat these issues. India is supporting FATF to make sure that terrorism funding or the money laundering will be controlled. So major issue for us in which we are helping the FATF is the terrorism funding, and which is linked to the Pakistan based syndicates. We are focusing on that more. Okay, so this is the information related to the FATF Financial Action Task Force which we have discussed till now. Now let's start with certain MCQs on FATF which we have studied. We are going to practice certain questions on that also. So first question is asking about FATF is abbreviation for. So now those candidates who are live in the session, do answer which of the following is the correct full form of FATF. First is saying it is Financial Action Task Foundation. Second is saying it is Financial Auto Task Force. Third is saying Force Action Task Force. Fourth is saying Financial Action Task Force. So which of the following is correct full form of FATF? A, B, C or D? Okay, so one answer has come, that is D, that is correct, Financial Action Task Force. FATF stands for Financial Action Task Force. Okay, now come to the second question, which is FATF was founded to tackle which of the following? Out of these, which of the following we have introduced the FATF? Is it money laundering? Is it terror financing? Is it economic stability? Is it both A and B, or is it none of the above? So which of the following is the reason, or which of the following is the purpose of introducing or establishing the FATF in the year 1989? What will be the right answer? Again, we are getting the answer, that is D. True. So money laundering and terror financing both are the reasons because of which we have introduced the FATF. Okay. Next, which of the following country has been put on the FATF grey list? Now this is the question related to the current news. So it is asking that which of the following country recently, has been put on the FATF grey list? Is it Pakistan? Is it Russia? Is it UAE? Is it Syria? Is it none of the above? So which country is recently added in the grey list of the FATF? A, B, C or D? Or E? Pakistan, okay, Amit is saying Pakistan. Okay, what about rest? See, the recently added country in the grey list of FATF is UAE. It's not Pakistan. Pakistan is already added in the grey list of FATF since 2018. It was removed from in 2020, but is still again added in grey list. So Pakistan is always at the grey list of the FATF. Now, recently added country is UAE. Now, why UAE has been added to the FATF for the strategic deficiencies in countering the money laundering. Okay, so UAE for strategic deficiencies in countering money laundering. This is the reason why UAE recently added in the grey list of the FATF. Now, who are the other countries who are in the grey list of the FATF? Pakistan is already in the list. Pakistan remains at the grey list of the FATF. Apart from Pakistan, we have Turkey in the grey list. Apart from these two countries, we have Jordan and also Yemen. So these are the 5 countries who are recently in the grey list of FATF. And apart from these, which country recently removed from FATF? Which country recently removed from FATF grey list is Zimbabwe. Okay, Zimbabwe was removed from the grey list, and the recent countries who are in the grey list is Pakistan, Turkey, Jordan, Yemen, and the recent added country is your UAE. Okay, so do remember the name of the countries who are in the grey list. No country is in the blacklist right now. Okay, now next question is, the FATF expanded its mandate to incorporate efforts to combat terrorist financing from. So from which year FATF added terrorism financing to combat terrorist financing in its objective? From the year 2002, 2003, 2001, 2004, or none of the above. So which of the following is the right option related to FATF adding the activity in its function, that is combating the terrorism financing? A, B, C, D, or E. Which of the following year is it? Mangesh is saying C. Rutuja is saying B. We have discussed in the current session already that in which year we FATF added the terrorist financing. It's not B, it is C, that is 2001. In 2001, the recommendation given to the FATF that combat to financing terrorism also added in the FATF activities. Okay, so right answer will be your C. Next, the Secretariat of FATF is located at the. So where the Secretariat or FATF is located? Is it at OECD headquarters Paris, World Bank headquarters Geneva, IMF headquarters Geneva, BIS headquarters Basel, or none of the above? So where is the Secretariat of FATF is located? A, B, C, or D? We are getting answer D, C. Okay. Right answer is your not D or C, it is A. So the Secretariat of FATF is located at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development headquarters in Paris. Okay. So the right answer will be your A, OECD headquarters Paris. What does OECD stand for? Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Okay, which is headquartered in Paris. So these are the certain questions of we have discussed the FATF information related to the current affairs also, which countries recently added, and we have covered all the objectives, significances, activities, and list of the FATF. Now let me know out of 5 how many questions you have done correct, And the information for all of you, those who are also preparing for JAIIB or CAIIB exam, so there is a video course available in bilingual and English language both. So there is a bilingual batch and the English medium batch which is available. It is a video course available at Adda 24/7 application for June-July exam 2022. Okay, and to enroll in this particular batch, you have to go to the Adda 24/7 application. You have to go to the JAIIB CAIIB section, from where you will find all the upcoming batches, selection batches or case study batches on the website. And to enroll in this particular batch, to get the 77% discount, you can use a code that is Y496. And if you want 1% additional discount, you can purchase this particular batch from the Adda 24/7 application, and by using this code Y496, you will get 78% discount. Okay. Next important thing is that the test pack is also available on Adda 24/7 application for CAIIB and JAIIB exam, in which you will get 1500 questions for CAIIB and 50 plus tests for JAIIB. Now we know understanding the concepts are very much important, but implementing those concepts in the exam is also very important. So practice is very important whenever you are going for a particular exam. To enroll in this particular test series, you can use a code Y496S. For test series or ebooks, you have to add S at the last of the code, and you will get 18% discount here if you purchase this particular test pack from Adda 24/7 application. Okay, Mangesh got 3. That is right. That is a good score. Okay, so let's end the session here. Thank you all for joining the session, and if you are new to the channel, do subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you will be notified about the all upcoming sessions on Adda Officers Adda 24/7. Thank you for joining and stay safe.